always that, but when is this marriage going to take priority? It needs to if it's going to live. And we went into the same cycle. He'd pull away, I'd lash out. And what was really, looking back, God prepared me for it. He gave me a word. And I didn't understand till I went back. I heard the words, but I neglected the manner in which it was delivered, the intensity in which it was delivered. I was getting prayer one night, praying for the restoration at Courts of Praise. We went there every Monday night. Miss Celeste was praying over me, saying prayers, pray for restoration, pray for restoration. Then she got a word, and she said, "Greater things are in store for you. Hear the words of my promise. Hear the words of my promise." And it was so powerful. And I thought, oh, okay. Looking back, the intensity in which she delivered it, it was more of, something's coming, but I need you to hold on. I really need you to hold on. And we started to really reconcile, right? I got that word, and then it really connected with my husband, and it was like, yeah, here we are, and we're going, and this is awesome. And in May, we're reconciling. He's committed to the restoration of our marriage. In June, I get the word. In July, it all fell apart. It literally unraveled before my eyes, and I couldn't understand why. And I remember praying as I walked away brokenhearted as he drove off with the kids. They come up to visit, and we were just totally estranged at that point. I mean, there was just tension and disconnect, and I'm hurting, he's hurting. And I'm walking into the church. God, I don't understand. And he said to me, "You don't know what commitment is. Neither of you do. You base it on each other's actions and not on my word." And that brought me up pretty short. Because I know it didn't come from me, and two, it was very accurate. When I reflected on all those years of brokenness, we were only as committed as the other person was kind, When it got bad, it was like, I'm out of here. And that was our instinct, was to run. That was very hard to hear, very humbling to hear. And what I realized, that first part of my program, I didn't delve into the deep, deep inner healing. To me, it was just, okay, let's just get me healed enough to get this marriage back on track, and I can come home and I can be a mom. And when it fell apart, that's when I said, okay, God, just whatever you have to do. Whatever you have to do. And each layer he removed. And it was hard, because in a sick way, there was comfort in that pain. It's what I knew. It's what I was enclosed in. And it was just...
I would even say, and I'm even afraid to say this, God, are you sadistic?
Yeah.
Those words were coming to my mind. All I can say right now is you made the wrong person your rock.
Yeah, I did. So as the layers came off, and I was still at every altar, every day of the week that we were at a church and I had an altar call, I was still on my knees, sobbing in brokenness. Heal my marriage, heal my marriage, heal me, heal my marriage. Because I wanted that, wow, look what God can do story. And I wrote the story. God has plans. Jessica had her own, decided he needed some tips on how to direct this. And
and while you're at it, God, will you remove the huge monkey of failure off my back so that I'm not publicly scorned, for my marriage going awry?
A little bit of humility here and there.
Oh, yeah, definitely. In September, 1 week before our anniversary, my husband came up to Teen Challenge and said he wanted a divorce and felt that I needed to know in person that I deserved that respect. I remember him saying that. Prior to him coming that weekend, we'd had 3 days of prayer and fasting. So I set myself apart and I fasted and I prayed that whatever happened in that room would be God's doing and not my own. And I remember getting the phone call, he's here, coming up the stairs, walking down that hallway, praying, God, whatever happens, just let it be you in there. And before I even got in the room, I had a vision of me sitting in the chair that I always sat in when we counseled, and Jesus coming in and sitting like on top of me and in me. He just came in, said what he had said, and said that he wanted a divorce. And we were to look at the counsel. We weren't even allowed to talk to each other because it had been so tense on the phone before. I remember turning to him. I asked Miss Martha first, can I please talk to him directly? And I didn't even know it was going to happen. I really didn't. But I took his hands in my hands, and I looked him in the eyes, and he thought I was going to pray. And I just started repenting for all of it. Everything I had done to hurt this man, the way I treated him, the callousness, the disregarding of his feelings, the affair, all of it, everything, it just started coming. And I sat back and I saw him. He was touched. He was crying. And I just was stunned that this so eloquently flowed. But it came from my heart. You know? God brought me to that place. Mm-hmm. And then I just watched a shadow fall. And he just said, I can't trust the spoken word. I can't trust your words anymore. I can't do this. And I was heartbroken. But I kept saying, you know what? I'm just believing God in this. I'm just believing God can do all things. I know I'm watching what he's doing in me. And he can do it in anybody. Not just me. He can do it in anybody. And once you experience what he can do in you, you can see it in others. You can say, oh, I know you're here, but guess what? When Jesus gets a hold of you, you'll never be the same. Ever. And you have this excitement because you know what he's done in you. You're the proof. You're the best over yourself, you know. You just know what he can do. Also, that September, God showed tremendous favor on me. He allowed me to go to a retreat. It was called Tres Dias. And I was only 7 months in the program, and that really wasn't allowed for students of just being in. You had to be near completion or internship. 2 girls were set to go, and one of them said she just didn't feel called to go to this one. And they put me in that place. And I remember sitting in one of our group classes, and I just kept saying, I'm so tired. I just felt so weary. And like I had just, gotten hit after hit waves. I'm standing for this, and I'm trying to heal through that. And God, what's going on? Why is this failing? Why? And I was called into the office, and they said, you were selected to go on this retreat. And I was like, wow.
Who selected you?
It was pretty much the upper management of Teen Challenge, Miss Martha, Miss Marty, and just where God had decided. He did.
Decided. That's
and they told me later how hard it was to get me. There was definitely a block that the enemy did not want me to be a part of that. Mm-hmm. And I went. And the theme of it was, come to me, all you are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. And I just started crying hearing those words. And I will tell you, at that place, God had been loving on me. But when I came here, it was so intimate with him. He really took me to a place of such intimacy. And he kept saying that I was precious to him. And I remember sitting there, and we were taking notes that one Saturday, and it was my anniversary. It would have been 11 years then. And I said, God, it's my anniversary today. And I was sad because in my mind, we would have been at that marriage seminar, and we would have been putting it back together, and it would have come on our anniversary month, and I had it all played out in my mind how this was supposed to go. And now I'm sitting at a retreat for women going, God, I don't know what went wrong. And he whispered to me, it's okay, because you're going to spend today with me. And he just kept pouring his love into me. I came back on a pass that December because I was to complete in February, so it was my first pass home. God had always warned me prior to something coming. And I was at church, and Pastor Mike was praying, and he says, I got a word for you. And he gave me his vision. He said he saw a jar, and the lid was so tight on this jar, and there's so much emotion surrounding this jar. And God says he's getting ready to take the lid off. Are you ready? Do you want it off? And I said yes. I drove home, expecting my kids to be there, and you know, we were going to celebrate their birthdays. I mean, even though we were talking about a divorce, I really didn't believe that there was going to be this divorce. My house was trashed on the inside, just wasn't upkept. It was pretty on the outside, which kind of looked like, I guess, my marriage in one way, you know. Everything's all nice on the outside, but inside everything's decayed and the appearance of, so nobody sees. I took my kids out to eat. There was no food in the house. I mean, it was just very unprepared, I guess. I mean, when you live in a bubble for those 9 months and then you go out into the real world, it's a little overwhelming. And you're trying to figure it out and not have a cell phone and just, you know, I mean, what did we do without cell phones? I don't know. We were at dinner and my second oldest daughter told me about her dad's girlfriend. And they were living together. And I didn't know. It all made sense after that. The push for the divorce. And, I mean, he had moved on. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't prepared for that at all. And the funny thing is, the other women up there kept telling me, he's met somebody else, he's with somebody else. I said, no, you don't understand. We've been through this. No, there's no way, he would never, no. And sure enough, that's what happened. I had to find a lawyer. There's scrambling for all this. And I remember them telling me here, my counselor back here at the church said, you need to stay. You don't need to go back. You've had enough healing. You don't need to go back. Stay, and you need to figure this out. You know, this is getting serious now. I mean, the kids, and there's the divorce, all of it. And I said, no, I'm going back. God's not done. I got in that car, and I drove the 6 hours back, pulled into the front of that church, and sat there and wondered, God, did I just do the right thing? Did I just do the right thing? I didn't want to get out of the car. Part of me was like, I'm going to try and go home. I don't have to come back here. I've been here this long. Why come back? I got out of the car. I walked in the front door, and God is so merciful. He always is to me.
Yes, he is.
Mm-hmm.
One of my Teen Challenge sisters comes around the corner, and I literally fell into her arms sobbing, because now it all converged.
Sure.
Everything. The worst thing that could happen. And I was willing to work through that too. We'll work through it. He can do it. I know what he did in me. He can do anything in this relationship. He can heal it all. I know.
Hence the question, I'm about to take the lid off. Are you ready?
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. He prepared me.
Yeah.
I remember sitting there stunned, talking to my counselor, going, I don't know how this happened. How could this happen to me? I was so sure. I didn't see this thing coming. I fought for it still. I stayed. I completed the program. They actually released me a month early. I had accusations, more stuff with DFC coming at me, and I realized it was getting ugly. While I was gone, he decided to pack up my home. There was pods that were dropped off in my driveway. He was going to pack up and rent the house out from underneath me. Funny thing is, on that, God told me 1 month, and I had 2 months to go, and I figured, okay, they're going to add a month because I stayed extra. It is a program. You can't just have